As I'm exploring these beautiful grassland references, I thought it would be amazing to create a lush realistic grass field with geometry nodes in Blender. To scatter any assets like grass, I have found two commonly methods. One is the particle system and the other is using geometry nodes. In this video you will learn about geometry node scattering. I have already covered the particle system method in a previous video and you can find the link to that tutorial in description below. I have researched and followed many tutorials on scattering with nodes, but most of them really sucks. After extensive searches, I discovered Blender Guru's Candy tutorial. It really helped me understand how to scatter using geometry nodes. So there is a complete summary of the process in the tutorial. Number 1. Scatter cubes. Use geometry nodes to scatter a cube. Number 2. Weight paint areas. Use weight paint to set grass areas and clear areas. Number 3. Create a field and append geometry nodes. And number 4. Finalize setup, which includes adding cameras, lighting, and render settings. So let's begin with the plane. Scale it. Now I'm gonna subdivide it at level of 20. Now let's add a cube. Press S, Shift Z to scale it on X and Y axes. Now I'm setting the cursor to the bottom of the cube. To do this, I select the bottom face of the cube. Press Shift S, choose cursor to selected. Next in object mode, right click on it, set origin and choose origin to cursor. Next I will vertically split the viewport and open the geometry node editor in the right window. Then I select plane and add a new geometry node. This is the group input and this is the group output. When the input is connected to output, the result will be displayed in our viewport. So for scattering, the first node to use is distribute points on faces. Now we can see that the points are scattered in our viewport, but the face disappeared. To fix this, we need to add a join geometry node. Connect the group input to the join geometry node. This will bring the plane back. And now we have points distributed on the plane, but we want this cube instance to be scattered instead of points. So let's add an instance on points node. Connect after distribute points on faces. Now we have to connect our cube in this node system. So select and drag cube layer from scene collection to node editor. And connect this geometry of cube to instance on points node. So here it is. Our cuboid grass is scattered, but still it looks like pillars. So we have these rotation and scale values in instance on points node. Now first connect those rotation values and then search for rotate Euler and also for a random value node. And plug this value to rotate by of rotate Euler node. Change this float value to vector so we will get more minimum and maximum values of XYZ. Now play with the values. I think this rotation looks fine. Now time for random scale. Now I'm adding a noise texture node and a map range node for more precision. You can also use random value node here. Then plug this value of map range to scale of instance node. And color value of noise texture to value in map range node. Let's increase the density with the density max. Now let's adjust the noise scale. It is just scattering, so we will replace this cube or instance with grass. Now scattering is done, but if we want some area to be free from grass or want some pathways to be clear, for this we have to weight paint that area. For now, I disconnect instance on points from join geometry. Now with pressing Ctrl plus Tab, move to weight paint mode, then paint the area where you want grass. Now going toward Object Data Properties tab. So this is the vertex group of weights which we have just painted. Let's name it grass. Now back to object mode and bring back our scattering. So now we want the weight group to connect in the node system. which means we have to connect that vertex group in this density factor. For this, we have to add a socket of our vertex group in this group input so that we can connect this. Now press N for side tab. In this group tab, add new socket. I'm giving a description of weight grass and the same to socket name. So the weight group is added. Now we have to only connect the weight group with this weight grass socket. So for this, in Modifiers tab on Join Geometry Node modifier, click here on the toggle and select our grass vertex group, and it's now just join this weight grass to the density factor value. And here it is. So we have to do the same thing with grass feed. I opened up a new file, adding a plane, scale it, subdivide it at most 40 times. Shape it like a landscape with proportional editing on. Time to set cameras. Now splitting windows, and I'll open Plant Library Asset Browser. I have already downloaded it. You will get it for free. I load some grass. Let's make a separate collection of it with the name grass. Now let's open up Geometry Node Editor. Now let's append the geometry nodes from the file grass scattering. I append whole collection, but you can only append geometry nodes. Let's name this appended geometry node to grass scatter. Now select our landscape plane, apply rotation and scale. Now replace cube with grass collection. Check these separate children, reset children and pick instance. I remove the weight input. You can add weight paints if you want. Adjust some scale values. Let's add some color to the base. Now some render settings. I'm setting the render engine to cycles, viewport samples to 24 and render samples to 32. Check denoise, device to GPU compute. Now time for lighting with HDRI. Click here on World Properties tab, click on color and select environment texture. Now open your downloaded HDRI file and let's view the scene in render view. Press Ctrl B, select area, adjust some focal length in camera tab. Let's do some HDRI rotation in shader editor. Select the drop down world, press Ctrl T, make changes on rotation on Z axis. Final thing, in render settings, down below in color management, set the view to filmic and the look to medium high contrast, and it's done. Before we end up this video, I'd like to leave you with something meaningful to think about. Every blade of grass was once just a seed. Just like mastering a skill, it's all about starting small, nurturing your skills and grow into something remarkable. Peace.